Welcome to Wire Guild. This tutorial is for a keepsake pendant, or a pendant that's going to hold a photograph for you. If you just flip it over, you can see I've got a very old photo in there of my dad. You're going to use very approximately 2 foot or 60 centimetres of 1mm or 18 gauge round wire, and about 3 foot of the 26 gauge or 0.4mm round wire. Now this all depends on how big you want to make the pendant, so you may use more, you may use less, but if you start off with those amounts, you're not going to be that far wrong for the first one that you make. So I'm just going to cut off my 1mm or 18 gauge wire. Let me just start that off, and I'm going to use some I better get it cut off first. It won't work very well from the coil, won't this? No, there we go. So I'm going to get my round nose pliers on the end, so the very tip of the round nose pliers on the very tip of the wire, and I'm going to put a curl in it. There we go, and I'm going to keep turning that curl, there we are, until it just goes that little bit past. Can you see that? So just a little bit further. Wow, I keep getting this out of shot, don't I? Sorry. There we go. So I've just curled round. Then I'm going to take some flat pliers and go over the top, and then just grip, and I'm pushing with my left hand against the wire while my right hand sort of holds it steady. I'm turning slightly with the right hand and moving the wire with the left, but I'm only making little movements. Now there is a skill set video somewhere about making spirals, so if you want to have a look at that. But I'm going to keep this one going for as long as I can, because this is going to form the middle section of the pendant, which is sort of going to hide the back of the photograph, because the backs of photographs aren't really exactly the prettiest things to look at. So can you see how it's starting to wobble now? We've got the wire is trying to double underneath just there. So we know we're getting to the point where we can't go much further. This last circle that I'm going to do really careful, and I'm not that bothered about it being tight. So this is super slow, little tiny bit at a time. Can you see that gap there that's in between? That's what I'm aiming for, so I'm just keeping going round. What I've done is I've taken advantage of what the wire wants to do naturally. Naturally, by the time we've got to this side, it wants to be loose, it doesn't want to be tight. Now that looseness there, that little gap around the edge wire, we need that. So let me just get it round the other way, and I need my 0.4mm wire now, the finer wire, and I'm going to unravel probably about 3 foot. Should be ample. We can always add bits more in if you don't like using so much. I just prefer to have it all in one piece. So I'm going to wrap this around just on where the coil bit stops. I'm wrapping around the wire that's coming off, and I'm going to wrap around about 10 times. I want this to be really nice and firm. It's not super close together, so let's just start pushing that up. I'm having difficulties because I'm working around this length of wire at the end, and with the limited space with the camera it doesn't quite want to do it, but it's alright, we're getting there. We'll just unravel that and it's catching, and wrap it around. Now then, let's just push that so that it's nice and tight, and just flip this over so you can see what I'm doing. Right then, I'm going to take that's the other end, that's the end where I started, just moving that out of the way. Now if I take my wire, don't slither around there, I want you there, and I'm going to push this, come here, whoops, in between the next wire down. So I've gone over by wrapping around in a circle, and as the wire is going back on like the downward path going back through, I have now taken it back through the wire that was underneath. Actually, let me get that pulled in and I'll move it a little closer. Can you see just where it's gone through? It's gone through the next one down, and then I can pull it tight, keeping it flat between my finger and thumb, but I've pulled those nice and tight. Now I'm going to ease the wire in slightly, because of course we've wrapped it out on a straight, so it's gone out straight. If you don't ease that bit that we've just coiled with the finer wire, when you stitch through you're going to have a gap, so I just eased it in with the circle. Now I'm going to go around again another 10 times. I don't know why I'm being so ham-fisted today, but I really am. So we'll just wrap around. You don't need to use 10 as a number. You could use more, you could use less. Don't get too giddy with your number. Don't think, oh, you know what, I'll do 20 or I'll do 30, because then you're not going to have enough attachment points to keep this whole thing secure. And if you decide to do, say, 2, you're going to be here forever. But it's entirely up to you. So just push those up so they're nice and tight. One of the things about weaving or binding with wire is that everything is nice and neat and tight. So don't neglect to do your pushing up bits with your pliers. It only takes a minute and it makes a huge difference. So I've stitched through to the next one again, and I'm wrapping around. I aren't doing a figure of 8 of anything. This is just going straight through and then straight around the wire that I'm working on. So I'm going to go around now another 10 times. I've just realised why I'm being ham-fisted. I'm working the wrong way around. Yeah, oh well. I'm going to speed this up now, because you see that's better. I've got it the right way around now. It's going a lot faster. So, all I am doing is 10 times round the wire that's coming off the spiral, and then 1 stitch through into the next wire down, each time easing that wire. I just cut off the tail end there because it was bugging me. Each time easing the wire that I've just wrapped into a circular shape and just keeping going. Now if you like this look, this is where you can make this much larger, because what you would do is, I'm going to stop when I've got to 1 full revolution. However, you could keep going and make this bigger with the stitching through each and every time. If you're going to do that, I would suggest that you have an awl, you know, an AWL, which is like a spike with a little wooden handle on it, and what that will do is it will enable you to make a nice hole for you actually to poke your wire through when it gets very tight. I don't know how many you've noticed, but I did make a proper little basket, like a little pot, and you definitely need something like the awl to make a hole for you to get your wire through as you stitch it. So I'm getting a bit closer, and let's just keep going. It'd be nice if my hands actually moved this fast, wouldn't it, when I was really working? I'd be able to get loads and loads made. Keeping it, pressing it down, and keep easing that circle into place. When you get to the point where you're coming up on the end, it probably won't be an exact, 10 revolutions you're going to stitch through and that's going to be it. So you're going to be in the perfect point. I think what I ended up with was maybe 3 after I'd just done a stitch, and then I had a full circle. So I've slowed it back down to normal speed, and I am ready to go through now, and that will complete my full circle. and I'll just stitch that through. And there we go. Pull it nice and tight. So there we go, I've got my full complete circle, and the wiring around the edge goes round. Now it's still a little bit springy in the middle, but don't worry about it. Once you've got your picture and everything, you're not going to notice that. Now you can do so many things with this. You could ease the wire like this around the edge that you've just woven, so it's sort of at the back of it, so it's tucked underneath, and then you could just take your finer wire and just go straight across and attach it into 2 or 3 different places. I like mine to be a little bit more robust than that, and especially when selling them to the public, you need them to be as strong as possible. So I'm just going to open this back out again, and I'm going to wrap round a few more times. So a lot more than 10 though. I'm going to wrap around possibly 20, maybe 30 times this time. So let's just whiz that around in circles. Lots and lots and lots and lots of circles. So that's 20 wraps. Let's see how that looks. I'm building the side piece, if you like, now that's going to hold one side of my picture, so it needs to be reasonably long, and I don't actually think that 20 is sufficient, so I am going to put, let's just have a look, let's do another 10, so I get this into the right hand, so that I'm actually working from right to left, which is what's throwing me, but because the wire is long, it's hard to work the other way around. Just squeeze that up so it's tight. Now let's just ease that back into the circle shape. You see how I eased the far end before I did this bit, even though that bit doesn't need curving. So I've just curved this in, can you see? It's just going to get stitched into place now through there. Now if you can't get it in, this is where the awl comes in very handy, because you can just poke a hole in. What I'm doing is I'm just using my fingernail to actually move the wires one way or the other ever so slightly to produce a little gap that I can poke my wire through. It doesn't want to go. Now sometimes it won't go because there isn't a big enough hole like that, and other times it doesn't want to go because the end of the wire has got a little bit mangled. No, it doesn't. So let's have a look at the end of the wire. Yeah, it's pretty mangled, is that now? So if I just trim off the bent bit, then use my pliers very, very close to the end, can you see? Very close. And then go to my little gap that I've got in the wires, and it should just pop through. There we go. And then I can pull it out with the pliers the other end. So this is stitching the wire back to the frame again, but it's more sort of going to be tucked at the back. Let's just get that round there. Turn it over so you can see. So I'm wrapping around the wire a couple of times. It just anchors it after you've stitched through, because one wire will hold it when you stitch it through, but if you go around a couple of times, it makes sure I'm not going to stretch it when I start wriggling the wire like I'm going to do now. So I'm pushing this wire so that it goes to the back, and then pliers on, and I'm just going to bend it in ever so slightly, top and bottom, bend it in so it make sure it's nice and flat, a little line across the back. You can't really see it much from the front, but on the back that is going to give us probably has a proper name but I can't think of it, a lip, if you like, that we can pop our photo under. So I am doing another 20 or 30 wraps, easing that into the, push it down, needs to be neat. Now ease that back into the circle, But remember, this is laying across the back. This isn't. There we go. Get that in the right place. Now the wire will go all the way over. Just make a hole. And the end's not particularly mangled, it's just got a little bit bent, so I'll just straighten that. And we just poke that through there. Sorry, my fingers are in the way, aren't they? There we go, through the hole. And stitch that down. And now this bit is not going to be a holding point, it's more a stopping point. This would be like the bottom of the picture, if you like. So this is to stop your picture sliding out and dropping, and the other side is to stop it dropping off forwards. So let me just wrap that round a couple of times. Remember, I went through and I stitched, so now I'm going to wrap around the wire just a couple of times. Now this side I'm not going to even bother to wrap it. I'm just going to take it into the position so that it's in the edge slightly, and then I'm going to bend it out, move that wire out of the way. I'm going to take it over to the front of the piece and then put a curl on it. The curl, not only is it attractive, but it's acting as like a stop, and then I'm going to squeeze that back and front on, so that's really firm. This wire that I've got now could be any number of things. I'm going to take a nice natural curve down, go beyond the circle, do a curl back the other way. It's not really a heart, it's sort of almost-ish, but not quite. So when the wire comes back up, I'll thread it through the original loop, gently easing it down to keep a nice soft curve shape, and then just bring that back up against that wire. Tighten it with my pliers. Let's have a look. I'm going to take this bit of fine wire that I've got, I'm going to get rid of that bit, and I'm just going to wrap it around the wire where it comes down the side of the circle. The wire's already there, the fine wire, and what this will do is it'll just add a little bit of strength. It just means it won't get lifted up. So I'm just wrap that through. It might go back through the circle and it might not. Let's have a look. You know, probably if I just wrap it around a couple of times around the wire, it'd be quite strong enough with that. Doesn't really need loads of strength just there. That's it. Push those tight together so that it looks neat. Now back to the top. I'm going to go round again, I think, just to give it a little bit more strength. Yeah. I was going to chop it off, but I might as well do it with the full length. So let's just ease that through and pull that down. That's it. Anytime you lock one piece of wire to another piece of wire, you're giving yourself a little bit more strength, and that's going to be up near the top, near the bails. So yeah. Now I'm going to trim off to about 3/4 of an inch, just over a centimetre, and I'm just going to curl that top bit round my round nose pliers, and it just forms a little sort of double thickness circle, which you can use then as your bails. You don't need anything heavy for this. It's not a heavy pendant. If you want to do some weaving on the bails, if you want to do a different bail, fine, put beads on. I'm just trimming the end off there because it was just a little bit of a sharp edge, and I don't want that, although this will go in the tumbler once I've oxidized it. Right, do I need to put this wire anywhere else? I don't think so. Let's just wrap it around again. I have to make sure that I don't want to use a piece of wire anymore before I actually cut it off. So we'll just trim that. Oops, get the pliers the right way around. Sorry, the snips the right way around, and we'll trim that off. Smooth the end down and then tighten those bindings up together. There we go. Now that's the front of my little, sort of like a half locket. Now just smooth everything out. Not totally happy with that circle at the bottom, so I'll just give it a bit of a zhuzh with the pliers and squeeze those back in. Lovely. Now the back bit. We have to make sure that this fits to get a picture. So what I've done is I've just got an old magazine and I've cut a bit of the cover picture out of the magazine. The reason that I'm going to do that and not use the photo just yet is that these always turn out different sizes. So I've got my bit of scrap paper, if you like, and I am just cutting around the edge just with a pair of scissors to get me a little bit smaller, because that was a bit big. Will that go in? The great thing about doing this with a piece of scrap to start off with is you can check that everything is high enough to get a picture in without damaging your photo. So it doesn't matter if this piece gets a bit scrumpled up, because this isn't my photograph. Now I need to just lift that wire ever so slightly, so I'll put a round nose pliers in and then just lift it up. You have a little bit of leeway because of the coil on the other end. It will sort of spring forward so you can get the tools in and then pop back into its original shape. Now my picture's still a little bit big, so I'll trim a bit more off, just around the edges, and see if that fits. Does that go in? Pretty much, yeah. So what I will do is, once I've got it to the point where I'm sure it's fitting, like that, and it looks quite neat in there, I'll take that out. Just get that out of the way. I'll get a proper photograph, take this out. I haven't got one just handy, otherwise I'd do it and show you. And then pop it down, draw around it, and then just trim your photograph out, and then your photograph can go straight into the back. Also, if you're selling these, it's always good to pop a piece of paper like this in them so that other people can do that when they get home with their own photos. So of course I'm going to go and oxidize this, because I always oxidize everything. That's another one that I did, which is very similar. They all turn out quite similar, but you could try adding beads to the front or putting leaves on or anything like that. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is one of my favourites. Thank you very much for watching. Happy wrapping.